All right, well, welcome everybody. Let's call the meeting to order and have the pledge to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call
Mark Phillips,
here.
Mark Frazier,
Here.
Francis Griffin.
Here.
Veronica Howard here, Troy Farnley.
Here. Okay. Should have your agenda there, May 7th.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Mark, okay. Motion to approve. Butch, second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the agenda,
We just did the agenda.
anything to add?
We just approved the agenda, Mark.
Oh, we approved the agenda. Oh, okay. May 7th.
Minutes.
May 7th minutes, okay. Okay, we approved the agenda.
Motion to
Mark
approve the
and
May
Butch.
7th minute.
Okay,
Second.
Butch, Troy, okay, who wants to second it? Mark? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. All right. We have two sessions of public comments, and also on the agenda, I've got a discussion about noise complaints, so that's on down there, in there. But public comment, anybody want to speak up now, or I've got...
About the noise stuff?
Well, you can do that, or I
you can go ahead and
I
get
put it
the
on the,
stuff
I think I
done.
told you I put it on the agenda, and I
Yeah.
put it, noise complaint.
You can talk,
We can
you
talk
can
now.
talk about it when we get to that part on the
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah,
if
yeah.
that's
Public
good.
discussion? Okay. It gives you a little more time, you know. to do that. Okay, Troy Sheriff's report.
Oh, right, for the month of May, we had 151 calls for service, of which 31 of them were traffic stops.
Okay. CISA report?
Well, at the regular CISA meeting, we, in the process of, Bennington is changing from being a
Contracting
contracting
municipality.
to being cooperating.
What that?
Contract
mean?
means, the contracting, they can get out in a shorter term, they don't have a representative on the board. Now they're gonna have a representative on the board, and they have to give us 2 years' notice to get out of the contract for
Oh,
ambulance.
okay.
And we also found out that the ambulance that we sent in to get re-chassis would be back last week, I think.
It's bad. It's
And
bad.
I'm assuming it's back. And then we held a special meeting on May 27th, it's strictly to discuss and sign the contract with the Memorial Hospital. We are going to we are gonna have an ambulance at Memorial Hospital assigned to them for transfers and so forth. And oddly enough, a transfer can include if somebody's in one of the doctor's offices in the hospital, and especially in the front buildings, but any of them, they don't take that, if that person starts having a heart attack, whether in the office or something, they don't take them to the emergency room, we do.
We do?
We do, yeah, because they aren't equipped to transport, especially if the weather's inclement or something. So, but they said that there was about 1,800 transports out of that hospital last year.
1,800.
Transfers. And we're gonna be paid a base fee plus run fees. We're gonna have a car there from 11 to 11 of an ambulance. Plus, we're gonna use our third ambulance from 7 to 11 in the morning. And we may have to have another one run up there occasionally, but we're contracted to have that ambulance there from 11 to 11.
It's an extra ambulance. It won't be pulling one of the ones that would be down
Right.
here normally. It would be, we bought another ambulance and hired another crew.
And that's the reason. Okay.
No, this is a really big deal.
Okay.
And will be a huge influx of funds, and the fact that we were chosen by the hospital is,
Pretty good.
yeah,
Pretty fair.
yeah. No, it will be a
New
huge amount of money.
Hospital is doing pretty good. I mean, it's.
Well, there's just a ton of transfers out of it.
And out of it.
Right.
Okay, in and out of it.
I mean, no, this is transferring out, like you're sent to Sparrow or
Sparrow.
U of M or Hurley
Hurley.
or to a rehab center or to Pleasant View or.
Genesis or whatever they
Yeah.
call it now. Anything else on that one?
Nope.
Now, you had a special meeting too, right?
That
The
was-
special
that-
meeting was about the contract.
Oh, okay, so that was a two,
Yep.
okay, all right. All right, CSA, DDA, we meet July 16th, that's a Wednesday, at 6:30. Zoning, did we get anything new, Veronica? I don't think we did yet. So no issues, nothing on zoning right now. Commissioner, county commissioner's not here. The library, Mark.
Okay, you have a copy of the schedule for the summer reading program. And at the meeting, I told you last month that Bridget was going from being the person going around to fill spaces wherever they needed them to running Morris. She's now officially the librarian in Morris. And Jamie Wagner is filling her position as the sub. They're in the Perry branch, when they did that big remodel, they made a room of a collection of the Library of Things collection. Now, oddly enough, it sounds a little odd, but what it is it's, for instance, they've got a magnet on wheels in there that if you're roofing your house, you can use to pick the nails up on the ground. They got just all sorts of different things that are available. And
You can check it out.
you can check them out. Some of them do have a fee, some of them don't, but they are available to anybody with a library card. They just got a real large order of Wonder Books, which is a popular book for kids now, in time for the summer reading program. So, and that's pretty basically it.
Okay, good, thanks. I-69 trade order?
No meeting since our last meeting.
Nothing, Troy? No? Okay. Is there one coming up?
Yes, maybe.
Okay.
If they have a quorum, that would be.
Oh, okay. And back to SCDP, economic development.
Last month was approving the audit. It was given to us and it was A-okay. Grant writer update with all these new grants that they're getting involved in. The grant writers that we have on retainer for SCDP and their members and now are at the point of bringing in $10 to $12 million into the county in the last couple of years. Wow. That's a lot of money that wouldn't have been here otherwise for different things. Land bank, blight elimination looks like it's going to be approved for the old Shaftsburg Hotel to turn that into apartments. And part of the money, the grant that we're getting for that is going to help with septic and well, because those are both what they have to have there. And then brownfield, and this is where we've got a lot to learn. There's a brownfield plan for the Lennon parcels that we sold to the builder to help him pay to put the infrastructure in, which is what takes a house from being something you can sell affordable to somebody to being unaffordable, the cost of the infrastructure. So there's a brownfield thing, and it's a thing where the taxes are captured and used to pay the infrastructure costs off, and he's on the hook if things go sour, that kind of thing. But that's basically what it is. And brownfield isn't just polluted property; it's a lot of other things to do with development, and all that is basically done in our county through the land bank and the brownfield authority when somebody needs that help. So, yeah.
The Shaftsburg Hotel that you were talking about, is that the one that's on the southwest corner of Shaftsburg?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's an old historic building.
They're a big,
Yeah, and the gentleman that bought it is going to turn it into 4 apartments.
cool. Anything would be an improvement. that would be.
Well, absolutely.
Yes.
And that's really the whole point of the blight grants and
Yeah,
the
that's
the
wonderful.
different things the Brownfield Authority does. Best involved with one in Morris with a house that's being torn down and that area's gonna be developed. And it's pretty amazing how some things can happen. The property in Lennon, where the old glass factory used to be, wouldn't get developed without the help to do this way. But this is not a taxpayer dump-in type thing. They're actually, it's paid for by the increase in value to the property is what it
Yeah, that's
really is
great.
doing. So it's a lot to learn, but it's interesting, so.
And Justin Horvath, our economic development
Oh,
director, has been
goodness, without him, we wouldn't
a wealth of help.
be able to make things work, I can tell you.
Okay, and then we did have our planning commission meeting this month, Mark.
I actually,
Do you have the minutes?
yeah, I do have the minutes.
Okay.
And we worked on some bylaw revisions, and we
We'll approve the annual report. Right.
approved the annual report,
You
and,
yelled at the county.
Oh, Pete Preston, that's right, we had a
well,
visitor,
Pete Preston came,
first time he's ever been there here since I've been here.
and he tried to kind of brush some things under the carpet and just kind of make it like, you know, that's just how things, it was a mistake, we're sorry we didn't give you enough time to review this, and he got called on it.
By several people. Yeah,
Very definitely, and
including Beth and me.
he did end up staying the whole meeting. I
Yes,
thought
he
he
did.
might
Yes, he
leave,
did.
so.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Okay,
But that's pretty much,
yeah,
we got some things later.
and all the members were there except for one, I think, right?
Joe,
Yeah, okay. Okay. That's the planning commission. Troy, financial report and pay the bills.
Okay, you got your bills list in front of you, fairly short list this month. There was nothing in there out of the ordinary, just our, like, big ones, our annual MTA dues were there. Outside of that, it was, lawn maintenance and the normal payroll. Are there any questions on the bills?
motion to approve.
Okay, Mark, you want to move to approve the bills?
Yeah.
Who was the second? Butch, okay. Roll call vote, Veronica, please.
Monica Howard, yes. Troy Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffin?
Yes.
All carried.
So correspondence, MTA, Veronica, did you write this? Thank you letter for being a part of the MTA community.
Yeah, it was just a letter. It was addressed to the MTA member township board, and
Oh.
it was just talking about that with all of us, that they're doing great and that they look forward to our continued support, and
Because our dues were due this month.
yes. It was because we paid our dues, we got a cute letter.
Well,
Yeah, paid it, yeah, we
you
just
know,
paid it now.
and Troy, and talking about some issues from some phone calls I've had for some residents over the last couple of weeks, Troy got with the MTA today for me, and actually, within one day, they sent me a handout for arms hunting and shooting, so I appreciate that. They did respond, so.
That's what we pay our dues for.
That's what we pay them, okay, so thank you for that. Correspondence, any more correspondence, Troy?
I don't know.
Okay, we have some announcements, or we have another public comment section. No one else come in, any other public, okay, we'll get more into this in our item. Unfinished business, I don't have any, do you have any?
Nope.
Okay, wow, we're doing good. Perry Township Planning Commission 2024 Annual Report, that's the first new business we had. Troy, you want to speak to that?
You want me to speak to it?
Well,
Or, Mark, I mean, we have it, we just basically have to accept it, right?
and she did a good job. Alina did it in her first year
I mean,
doing
I think we know everything that was in there.
And, have you read it, Butch? No. No? You wanna look at it real, what's you look at it real?
It's there's one in your packet.
Okay, rest of us know about it. Okay.
I'll make a motion, we
Troy?
approve the 2024 Planning Commission Annual Report.
All right, Troy's been made to make a motion.
I'll second it.
Veronica's gonna second it, okay, and
Yes.
roll call vote on that. Veronica?
Veronica Howard, yes. Troy Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffith?
Yes.
Okay. Just for the public, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members, 8 members on board, and then right now in the
Seven.
recording secretary.
Seven.
7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
In a recording sector.
Oh, Lean's on there twice, okay, yeah, okay. She was appointed,
Right.
February. Okay, so there's that. All right. Planning Commission bylaws update approved by the Planning Commission May 15th, 2025. Should have that bylaw revision, which we've got to give Beth credit for that. She spent a lot of time going through it, dissecting it, adding, and delete old obsolete items that needed to be updated.
Well, to change them, you may remember that you paid for me to do the online course called the Citizen Planner. And it spoke in great detail to the issue of conflicts of interest. And so what we did when we proposed amending the bylaws here is to really flesh out those rules and make it very clear to any member at what point their decisions, their participation may in fact be a conflict, and they shouldn't be participating in a particular issue. So that's the main thrust of it. And so that became item 2 of the bylaws. It used to be item 8, I think. That was the main change. It's really in great detail there. The other relatively minor change we made was the length of time given to the public for comments in a public hearing situation. And we changed that from 5 minutes back to 3 minutes, which seems to be more the norm in most public gatherings. So any citizen would have the right to speak for 3 minutes on any topic that came before the commission. And then Troy just pointed out to me here an error in the bylaws in the version you have, which was in our previous version also.
Okay.
Be under part 3, officers, this would be on
Yeah.
page 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, list the officers, chair, vice chair, and secretary, but then under part C, at the top of that page, it calls it the recording secretary. The recording secretary is not an officer, the
Right.
secretary is an officer.
Right.
So we need to strike recording,
Take
there's
that
3
out.
spots in that paragraph where it says recording secretary, it needs to just say
It
secretary.
just needs to say secretary, right?
Because the recording secretary is not an officer.
I see all 3 of them. Okay. On item 5.
Yeah, so we need to strike that.
Okay. Okay.
Other than that, nothing else changed.
Nothing else changed in the
So we want to
proposed.
make a modified version vote?
Yes, we
Well, you
will
need,
approve
yeah,
the
you need to
amendment.
mention that change so we make sure we get it in our copy, yeah.
Okay, we'll mention that, okay. So, all right, modified version for acceptance.
Does anybody else have any other questions or issues?
He's almost done, Rich is almost got it.
What's our algorithm, lady?
So, everything else is, actually, what you talked about, the incompatibility of office, that was discussed quite a
Well,
bit.
that's the issue of, if you already hold another public office that you're elected to or appointed to, if there's an incompatibility, and you're appointed to the planning commission, you must resign from the first office. Likewise, if you're on the planning commission and then take another job, you have to resign from the planning commission. You can't have 2 that are incompatible.
Yeah,
The other important change is ex parte, well, I don't know if that's quite the right word. You should not,
Have an ex parte contact with somebody who's about to have something before the commission.
yes, that
a
and
secret,
also.
a secret conference or whatever.
Well, anything, like, if a member of the public who's gonna be before the planning commission comes to you as an individual and wants to talk about the issue, no, you can't. You need to do it all in public. The other thing is that if you need to inspect a proposed zoning variance or site plan or whatever it is, you need to go by yourself. You don't take another member of the planning commission with you. There's no collusion here, okay? You've
Yes,
gotta
you're
come-
not supposed to, if somebody has something, you're not supposed to give them a call before the public hearing and say, what exactly, you're not supposed to
Yeah,
do that.
no,
That all gets hashed out at the public.
right, it's all public.
Okay, very good. And good job, by the way. Excellent. Yeah. So I'll make the motion, can I?
Yes,
That we accept the planning commission bylaw update that was approved May 15th, 2025 with the modification on that item 5.
I'll second it.
And Bush will second that. Roll call vote when you get time there, Veronica.
Francis Griffin,
Yes.
Beth Howard, yes.
Yes.
Troy Parmalee,
yes.
Mark Foltz,
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Okay, 3 items left. Planning commission discussion about future zoning, and that's a little vague, but basically, we don't do any zoning here, we don't do any enforcement, we don't do any, really hardly any inspections. Beth, you want to give a little?
Yes, but
Oversight.
as the board knows, since we approved the master plan in August of 2023, we've been working on a zoning ordinance for the township that would allow us to do our own zoning, take that power away from the county. And we've been working on it off and on. We've pretty much got it done. There's a few minor things we have to still tweak. But I brought this up to the planning commission thinking that we need to know for sure if we're going to spend more time doing this, if the board is going to make the jump and we're actually going to do our own zoning, hire our own zoning administrator, our own zoning enforcement officer. And we need a timeline because otherwise it's going to drag on for years. So, and I don't want to do that. I have other things to do.
You're looking for a target date.
I'm
Well, I
looking for a
think
target
the
date.
question is, are we gonna do this or
Yeah.
not? I mean, we don't wanna just keep wasting time. We either
Right.
do it or we don't do it, right? I mean,
And we kind of let Pete Preston know in the meeting, or the meeting we had at the
In
planning
May.
commission, Mark, right, that he fully supports that.
Well,
He said-
he
No, I don't think
he
he
said
fully,
that.
he was surprised, would be my
He
opinion.
was surprised, but
He
he said.
says he was supportive of us, but he is not supportive. Don't believe the word that man says, okay? Just don't believe it.
well,
But
I
he
mean,
did
if
say,
you do, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn.
but he did say that, he did say it,
Well,
and,
Pete Preston's contract dollar amount will get much smaller at the
Oh,
county if we
of
do
course,
it.
yes,
And
if they pull out.
so Steve, he would not be in favor of that.
and we had a little barbecue last night at 6 o'clock at Chi-Town, and Pete wasn't there, but our friends right north of us in Bennington Township were there, and 2 of the officers, one is the Larry Johnson, who is the health director for the whole county, and he wants Bennington to do their own zoning. He'd like us to join him with that, so there is people interest right in our, Woodhall's been
Yeah,
involved.
there's a
They-
lot.
I mean, we're gonna,
There's
so
a lot of
people
discontent.
want to kind of get out.
here's how this would work. Somebody's going to have to lead on this, and that's going to be us,
Yeah.
right? Because otherwise, this will just dink around forever. Well, can we do this together? And, I mean, my guess is if we take the leap and do it, then others will follow on. But someone's going to have to lead on this,
We
and that's going,
definitely are farther along.
well, they just, nobody else is gonna do it. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but there's nobody there that's
Talk
gonna
about
do
the
this.
financial things with us, Troy. We think that as far as the permit fees and fine
Well, we're
things,
gonna have to outlay some money to do this.
But
I
we're
mean,
gonna get
we can
some
afford to
back.
outlay some money.
we're gonna get some.
We're gonna have setup fees, yeah.
But we're gonna have control. We just,
I mean, here's the hazard. Eventually, one of these days, what I perceive happening is the county board of commissioners is gonna get so tired of everybody complaining and, moaning and
Yeah.
complain about everything. They're gonna just say, we're done. We're done. We don't have to do this. We're done. We're just gonna get rid of it. We're gonna lease out the office space and we're gonna just be out of this. So we don't have to, and if that
We're not
happens,
ready.
and if that happens, we don't really have a choice, right? So,
Right.
I mean, the problem is, I feel like so many times during the day, I mean, I'm not here as much as you or Veronica are, but holy smokes, there's days, I spend half my time on zoning stuff. We might as well just do it ourselves instead of having to go behind and clean up their mess.
And wait.
Right, I mean, we have to, they don't respond to complaints, they don't do this, we have to go tell them to do this, we have to tell them to do that. Did they do a permit? We don't get them, like this month, we don't have a zoning report, we didn't get any permits yet. And then of course, when the assessor doesn't get permits, we get houses that get missed, and and additions that get missed, and, it's one of those things where we're doing a huge chunk of it already, and of course, then we're not having the control, and B, we're not getting any of the revenue off of it. So, I mean, do I want to do it? No, if the county system worked, I would stay with that, but it's not working. And I don't see, the commissioners aren't gonna get rid of Pete Preston. I mean, they're not.
Well, the chairman of the Board of Commissioners said that he just as soon get out of the whole thing.
Well, and that's what makes me think that's the way they're going, because I've heard him say that, yes, because they're just tired of getting yelled at by everybody, and of course, in fairness, the current Board of Commissioners didn't create this mess, this was the previous boards of commissioners that created the mess that they're in, but nonetheless, it's their I mean, when I've talked to other commissioners, they're at a loss of what to even do, right? And so, I think what Beth is looking for is, are we going to set a goal to do this in the next year, or the next, I don't know if it could be done by January 1st or not, I think that's a pretty aggressive time frame.
That would be aggressive, but I think we could actually meet that. I mean, we are close on the zoning ordinance.
Well, we need to find a zoning administrator that we could afford, and a code enforcement officer, and then figure out what we would be doing for permits and stuff. I mean, January 1st is a logical date to transfer,
I
right?
think.
Well, wouldn't April 1st be better, being the beginning of the
It
fiscal
could
year?
be, but I mean,
We can always
one of
delay
those.
it if we,
Sure. But we will need to involve some consultants, right? To do our final tweaks on
That's
the
right.
ordinance and everything else. And I guess I would suggest that perhaps you and Beth work on some of that, maybe go talk to a couple potential people. I mean, Block Township does their own zoning, they have a zoning administrator in there, maybe she'd be interested. Maybe the person that does Owasso or Caledonia would be interested. I mean, this is not a full-time job, this is,
Yeah.
and then we have to figure out what we would do for other permits.
and get their
Right.
salaries
I
and
mean,
whatever.
do we
so
go with like an AGS, like what Morris
Like
does,
the
who
village
I'm
board.
not in love with them, but they're about the only game in town.
You're talking about building permits.
Yeah.
But still, even in like the village, they do their own building permit, their own electrical permit, but their mechanical permits and their plumbing permits are pulled at the county.
Right, and the count, so what it does is there's a tree, and if that authority all belongs to the local jurisdiction. If the local jurisdiction does not do it, then it moves the next rung up. So if the county does it, if the county has a electrical inspector, then the county's. If the county doesn't, then the state handles it.
Right.
So like if the county for a while didn't have a plumbing and mechanical inspector.
Right.
So that means if you needed a plumbing or mechanical permit, you pulled it from the state of Michigan.
Which might mean delayed projects, obviously.
It might be,
Limit to
but
the
somebody
first step.
always does it, is
Somebody
what I'm
always
saying.
does it,
It
right.
moves up the run, the locals have the first crack at it.
Right,
Because of course, you get to keep those permit fees.
right.
So that's,
And from what we've learned from community development earlier in the year, apparently we would have as income from permits, something probably in the range of $30,000 a year. It may not fund the whole thing, but it would be a big portion.
and of course, that varies considerably. You get into some more
Right.
commercial projects where there's site plan review fees and everything else,
Yeah.
and it can get more. Now, those you typically have to bring in, we'd have to bring in a row or somebody to help consult on.
Right, yeah.
But, yes, I feel like this is coming to us whether we want it or not. Beth has done a ton of work on this. It's like the master plan. We asked about the master plan, they don't have a map.
I called,
No.
no.
No, they don't
he's
have
gonna
a
send
map,
me,
they don't have
what
a
he had,
future
but I
land
have
use map, and yet they tell us that we should be doing something different.
Right, they tell us they're gonna
But
use,
it's not in their master plan what we
they're,
should be doing.
they're gonna use their master plan map, not ours, but they don't have one,
Right,
you know.
there you go.
I mean, that's the rationale we got.
Mhm.
So,
And when I saw Bogus last night, I asked him, I said, I don't think they have an update master plan. He said they don't.
No,
He seemed to be,
the last master plan
He's
for the
gonna give
county
me
was
Pete, he
10
said.
years ago.
yeah,
By statute, it should be at least every 5 years.
yeah, for every 5 years. Yeah.
And there's no map attached to that last
Nope,
master plan.
no, yeah.
there's a map that exists somewhere. I have
12
seen
years
it.
old, I think, he told me. He's gonna send it to me supposedly.
Yeah.
I haven't got
Have
it
you
yet.
seen it yet?
Maybe he's got it at home in the drawer or something.
So anyway, would you and Beth be willing to work
Well,
on that?
I was
Mark?
going to shoot a target of Halloween, 10/31 of, but maybe I'll
Halloween?
shoot 12/31 of 2024.
Oh, 12/31.
12/31, yeah, I
New
first
Year's
thought
But I
Halloween
mean-
was an excellent time, but we're just gonna strike that.
Stop. I
Kid slap.
mean, would you guys work on that?
Yes, I would do that.
I mean, we need
I
to
can
start
ask-
getting some
I can
things
ask
lined.
Beth, would you be willing to work with me, Beth?
Of course, of course. I guess also, Troy, maybe you have some feel for this. What do we think for hours? Do we, we're bigger than Locke Township considerably, but we're not as big as Caledonia or Owasso. Are we gonna be looking at, I guess maybe the thing is reach out to those two bigger townships and see how many hours their people have to work.
I mean, the
That's probably
fact of the
what it
matter is, this day and age, so much of that stuff's electronic, it's not as,
is. Right.
I don't think it's as critical that the zoning administrator would be here on
Yeah.
Tuesdays
No.
between 9
No.
and 12.
Right.
I don't think that's not the issue it was
Not unless
20
you hired
years
the
ago.
wrong one.
Right, because so much of it can be electronically submitted and done by emails and stuff like that, and then they can come pick it up the next, it just,
Right.
I think that stuff just is more flexible than it used to
It seems to me, we have some issues in the township that have been festering for years that the county hasn't taken care of. You know?
And we would need to find a code enforcement
So-
officer, which is not a fun job.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, I would assume initially, there'll be a lot more hours, in the first couple
Well,
of
code
months.
enforcement is probably an hourly type job.
Oh, yes. Well, from what I've determined, actually, a lot of the people who do zoning administration do it by the hour. They may have a retainer, like a monthly retainer of $300 or $400, and then they bill by the hour.
Well, that makes sense, because it goes with the permits.
Sure,
So-
yeah.
What do you think, Veronica?
Hi,
No, what do you think?
I'm just listening.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna fall in your lap too, Veronica. Just warning you.
So, that's
Well,
my,
it
that's
certainly
my
can't
view.
hurt, it certainly can't hurt to set
Target
a
date.
target date, because if we need to adjust it, we can adjust
We
it.
can adjust
Because the part we haven't really talked about is that we've also had discussions with surrounding townships
Mhm.
that are interested in joining us to share those people.
Sure.
We'd each have our own zoning ordinance, we'd each have our own set of rules that person would work under, but that way we aren't looking at trying to fund somebody full-time.
I agree, but we're gonna have to take the step and have it going
Yeah.
first, because
We'll never
it
get
just
there.
will never happen.
While we're close.
Well,
And once they see, provided it doesn't become a disaster, then they can participate on, and if they wanna use some of the things that we've done a lot of work on, they can contribute some back to it somehow. Yep. Okay, does that seem, we don't need if you guys are just good to do that, we don't need a motion on that, but is that,
I guess from my personal standpoint, if I have the assurances from the board that yes, we're gonna proceed, so I keep working on it.
I think,
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
All right,
I don't think we got a choice, like you
yeah.
said.
So I think we'll try and have something to you by the end of the year then. It's pretty firm.
But we'll need to,
I
at
mean,
some point
for
here,
actually
we're
hiring
gonna,
somebody, we gotta interview them and all that kind of
well,
stuff.
but we've gotta at some point involve a firm to kind of go over the final level of the zoning ordinance.
That's absolutely right.
And so
Yes.
you guys need to find that.
We'll work
firm.
on it. We'll work on it.
And while, our attorney Lynn
Oh, yeah.
he loves zoning and planning.
He's, and
some of that for the initial setup, we may have to do something
And I
more.
think that'd be a good idea, Beth, to meet with him,
Okay.
for sure.
Yes, maybe the two of you should go meet with Lynn.
Yeah, I think that's a good first step. And again, I've used Lynn personally when I had a problem with my ditch in front of my house, so I know him he's a very excellent.
Lynn
attorney.
is
He's a great lawyer, and he
good
doesn't
lawyer.
charge us hardly
the
anything.
initial setup may require more than Lynn, but
Yeah, okay, Beth.
Okay,
All right, I'll call him, we'll get something set up next week, okay?
Yeah.
All right, check. Noise complaint, public direction, public discussion, and public is here. Let me show of hands, how many are here to talk about that? 1, 2, okay, all of you. Okay, I set enough chairs up, that's the important thing. Can we go ladies first? One of the 3 ladies want to talk first?
Sure. You want to say something? Go right ahead. I
The
got a few
Sunday
minutes.
before Memorial Weekend,
Okay.
my son and I were outside. I'm, what, half a mile, less than half a mile from this house.
Okay.
And we were outside from 2 to 5:30, and there was nonstop shooting. Both sounded like a revolver, sounded like a semi-automatic weapon, sounded like explosions, like those things that you put on the target that go boom.
Okay.
So explosions, literally the whole afternoon when we were outside, only leaving time enough for them to reload. It was just obvious. It was, you know, we live in the country, we all are happy to shoot, but this was, we heard all afternoon nonstop. And I called 911 to complain after I heard the second explosion, which reverberated off my fence row I mean, these were loud, very,
Okay.
very, very loud.
Where do you live compared to the noise?
Okay, I'm 5111, what's
They're
there?
5280.
So close,
Right next door?
not quite next door.
Across the road.
They're next
Oh,
door.
across the
We're
road.
across the
Oh,
road,
across the road.
it was obnoxious.
South Beard Road.
We're south,
Okay,
They're
these
on the
people
north
are
side.
north.
okay.
And that new second 2-story house that's kind of back in the woods that went up last winter,
Okay.
if you drive Beard Road, you'll see it. Well, you won't see it because it's very.
Yeah, I drove by it yesterday, I didn't see it, but I see
Yeah.
the road, the
Pretty
dirt
sure
road that goes back.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. And we're the folks a little bit east that have the horses,
okay,
so we have anyway,
okay.
it was beyond loud, it was nonstop all afternoon. And that's just beyond. Now, Holly lives across the street from me.
Right, I wasn't home, but as soon as we pulled in the driveway and stepped out of the car, kaboom, I go, oh, that Mary had called me and asked if I was home, and I go, oh my gosh, that's what Mary's talking about. So I live across the road from Mary, I live on
So
the north
she's-
side.
Actually closer to the
Yeah,
Okay.
offending people,
Okay.
and you're even closer to them.
Yeah, and Rich is even closer than that. We heard both of the big explosions, maybe more,
There were
but
more.
it actually, I mean, it made you jump. It shook the house, it startled us, and then we weren't terribly enthusiastic about the fast repeating type,
Yeah, there was.
almost like they're
Yeah.
war type.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if it was a bump stock but it was boom, 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 boom.
Okay.
And what sounded to me, and I don't do a lot of shooting, but it sounded like a revolver or a smaller weapon. And then a semi-automatic weapon was going all the time, and then these occasional huge booms when they had, I guess you can buy an explosive you put on the target that blows up when you hit it. And this was all afternoon. This was absurd.
And different neighbors, Shar Anderson, for instance, they live the second house to the west from our house on Beard Road there. And she had called the sheriff's department at 911, but they said they couldn't do anything. I don't know if you got to talk to the sheriff last night or not. But Rich, You said you spoke with the chief of police.
I did talk to Kyle Box, Perry City. I mean, there's ordinances obviously in the city against this happening.
Right.
Kyle suggested that we do come to the township supervisor. When they called 911, they apparently talked to an officer. He basically said, you live in the township, it's a hazard of living outside of the city, which isn't an appropriate response. Kyle suggested it probably should have been elevated to a lieutenant or the sheriff himself for discussion of, you know, what's reasonable, what's unreasonable. You know, to their point, lots of different caliber firearms going off out there. There were explosions. I don't know if it's tannerite or grenades, whatever was being shot off out there, but it was a bit frustrating. It was consecutive hours, nonstop, and it's right off the, I mean, it's right on the border of the city of Perry.
Yeah.
I mean, he's barely in the township, and it's just,
None of us wanted to go visit these crazy people.
We don't know
At
them.
the
well, no,
time.
they're good people, and I think he's being, you know, he's got a dirt berm built out there to shoot into.
I don't,
So I believe that, you know, I think they're being cautious in what they're doing.
Okay.
It's just the idea that it's multiple hours, and the fact that the sheriff didn't want to come out and even take a look and see what, you know, what's happening. And I guess the question being, is there an ordinance in the township?
Okay, we'll talk about that in just a second.
I talked with
How many
Officer
days did you-
Warren.
Did you just hear it one day, sir, or did you hear it? You,
This is the
More than
second
one?
time this spring this has happened.
2 times that you know, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Wayne?
It's also happened during the winter and last fall. Shortly after they started building that out there, they've started this, but this one lasted longer
Okay.
and was possibly a little more involved. They definitely were using fully automatic weapons at some point. And when she mentioned the tannerite, that you can buy these targets that you put the target up, and when you hit the target, then it makes like a firecracker
oh, it was more of a
explosion
fire.
from firecracker.
It was an
Okay.
explosion.
But you can also buy tannerite in
Are they like
containers.
cannons? Or like little mini cannon shooting? Is that what it is?
No, it's the weapon, the shell hits it, and then it explodes. It's an
And it
explosive
makes the, that's
device.
the vibration.
What's the tannerite?
No.
that you
It
think
was
they
loud
use?
kaboom.
That's not the
It
vibration.
vibrated, and it
That's
was-
the noise.
I
Well,
was
that's
up-
the noise.
It makes a louder noise than the gun does.
What's the vibration? Did you say the house was shaking too, Shirley?
Yes,
So what's that
the
for?
house shook.
That's how
When
loud
that
it was.
tannerite or whatever it was, that big explosions went
Okay.
off.
Can I finish my explanation?
Yes. Let him finish.
They
Please.
use tannerite to make targets.
Okay.
You can put the target up and you can shoot it, and it makes like a louder than a gun,
Oh.
like a really loud M80 they used to have when I was a kid, a really loud firecracker. But it's more like a firecracker,
Okay,
but it is louder than a gun, so you can notice the difference.
okay.
You can also buy it it comes in cans, sometimes in boxes, and you can buy it in 2-pound containers. In a 2-pound container, you just mix the chemicals together, and you have an explosive that's 1/3 the power of nitroglycerin. And nitroglycerin is one of the most powerful explosives that we know of that's chemical, not atomic. So it's a very powerful explosive. It's much more powerful than gunpowder or the powders that they have now that aren't the black powder or the smoky powder. The smokeless isn't exactly gunpowder anymore, but so it's a very powerful explosive, 1/3 the power of nitroglycerin, which is pretty heavy duty.
Okay.
And you can buy it and you can mix it together. And they say it's not regulated because the individual components are not explosive. So the Bureau of Tobacco and Firearms doesn't regulate it because of that. But like I just compared it to nitroglycerin, nitroglycerin is nitric acid, sulfuric acid mixed together and then mixed with glycerin, and it forms nitroglycerin. So the individual components of that aren't explosive either. So I don't understand what the government's position is on this. If you buy the individual components, they come in little envelopes, you mix them together, and then you hit it, and it explodes. But But you have to hit it with something, like you have to shoot it. You can't just light it on fire.
Right, oh, okay. Yes,
Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say.
But those, when you mix that entire package together and set one of those off, that shakes the ground and it shakes the houses in the neighborhood.
It did, it really did.
It did.
Like I said,
Yes.
we were outside.
so this is the same property, right, which is
Yes.
2 doors from you guys, right, Charlie?
Yeah, we didn't
And,
see them
The
because
other-
they're so
the
far
other
back.
The other person that
But-
lives next to you, in between, is a friend of our assistant treasurer. So she also heard, our treasurer, she heard the noise too, and so did this lady next to you, Charlie. Heard the same. Now, was there a lot of cars in the parking, was a lot of cars in
You
the
couldn't
front of the
see,
house?
I did not go there,
Okay.
okay? And they have a long curved driveway,
Yeah,
you
I
wouldn't
see it
see.
sometimes,
You
okay.
And
wouldn't
the
see.
trees are leaved
With the
out now, so
tree
you
limbs,
don't
okay,
see
I
them.
You know,
understand.
and it's not, there had to be at least 2 people shooting.
How many
Don't
Or
you
more.
think? Or
At
more.
least.
At
Do
least
any of
2
you,
or more.
have any of you met the people?
Yeah, I know Tyler.
Oh, you do?
He owns the home back there, and he's a hunter, and he's a gun enthusiast,
Okay,
which is perfectly fine. I
Okay.
mean, we're all gun owners, but
okay.
that particular afternoon, it just got, like they say, it got obnoxious. It was long, it was loud. I'm sure people who didn't know what was going on felt very unsafe.
I felt very unsafe when I heard the explosions, because I
I
thought,
got one more question to ask before we, maybe do a little
I
talking.
did have one more comment. Supposedly they have a berm to shoot into.
That's what I heard.
I
Okay.
don't know how secure or safe what they built is,
Okay.
because what they were shooting was over the top, I thought. And do they actually have a safe arrangement? They have 2 acres, right? It isn't like
Yeah.
it's safe to shoot any of this stuff in your backyard unless you really have the kind of arrangement that you need to have to make it safe. And I wasn't gonna go look. I don't think anybody went and looked.
About 2.5 acres, right?
But, yeah, but this
Wow.
was,
Or 3 acres?
3.5 according to GIS.
3.5, okay.
Sorry.
My one question, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but I drove by yesterday and today, Ellsworth Road. After I turn and go north on Ellsworth, there's some vacant property back there.
Beardsley.
Huh?
You mean Beardsley?
Beardsley,
Beardsley.
go north on Beardsley, excuse me.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Beardsley, North of
Sit down.
Beardsley, yeah.
Oh,
Beardsley.
Beardsley, go north on Beardsley, there's this black fence. Does anybody know?
I know,
The gate
we
there.
have no idea what that's
Is
about.
that new?
Yes.
That, a couple bought those 53 acres. They're building a home back there, or will be building a home.
Oh,
Right now, the acreage is being farmed, but
okay,
Tyler has a relationship with Jackson, who owns that property.
the guy from Lansing?
Yeah, I don't know where he's from, but I know he again, I believe, is a hunter and a gun. I've met him. You know, again, they're good people, but
Okay.
what's going on is concerning.
Okay, that
Yeah,
that
we
makes
want
some
to make
sense.
it clear, Mark, that we're not here to punish those people necessarily. We're here to try to get somebody to educate them, and we want, we would like for them to be able to have their little fun without aggravating and scaring the rest of the neighborhood.
So this 48 acres that's owned by his friend, okay? Do you think he's not gonna just build a commercial thing or anything?
Have no idea.
No, where the gate is off Beardsley,
Yeah, it almost looks like a professional. gate
he's
like-
gonna be building a home at the back of that drive, not too far back.
Uh-huh.
But he owns all that acreage. He bought it all as a lump sum, I believe.
So he's not gonna develop it. See,
No,
that's,
it's my understanding they're just gonna build a home back there.
that's the thing about communities. On the other side of me lives a person who said that the person on Beardsley Road thought that it was that gentleman that had just bought that property who wants to develop it and who is angry with the neighbors that won't sign off on an easement so he can get, I don't know, gas back in there or something. And they thought that he was making that noise to do something to
Counter
irritate the...
that, yeah.
people,
The
so
one thing
it's,
we know
you
here at
know,
the township is about a month ago, they asked for an address for that location.
The only thing they pulled is an address
And so
request.
that's all we've done with that,
Well,
when those
the county,
gates-
the county handles that, but I
Right.
mean, there's been no,
They
as of,
really think.
as of last time, we haven't gotten this month's zoning packet, but, as of last time we checked, there had been no building permit pulled or anything else on that. And as far as something about an easement, if there's something like that going on, it's nothing we know.
We don't have a record.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
we
was
were
just-
on it,
I
you
was
know,
just telling that because to show that it's like that old game telephone, by the time it
Sure,
gets to that
sure.
person, is way out of.
so these are nice people, you know?
Oh, yeah, I'm very comfortable with them as neighbors.
You know Melissa and Tyler.
Yes,
You
they
know
have
both.
2 children, 2 small children. I
Okay.
mean, but they're good neighbors, they're quiet. I can't even see them now because of the trees that
One of them's
killed them.
38, one's 37 years old,
Yes,
okay? They were from, I think they lived in his dad's house or over in Mount Morris, Michigan, right?
Before they moved.
What did he do over there?
What does it matter?
I just want to know. He moved to Perry, Michigan, you know?
Yeah.
I live in Missouri, I grew up in
Neighbors were
Missouri.
delighted that they moved, that's what I think.
he does something mechanical. I know
Sorry.
he was working out of Flint with General Motors, doing something.
Okay.
But I'm not. for
Probably,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, I worked at the city of Flint 29 years. I was an engineer there. I worked at Buick for 3 years. So, yeah, I understand why you move in the country, you know, for sure.
Okay,
All right. I'm just,
Did you
we're
ever
just,
get a chance to talk to the sheriff?
no, I wasn't at the meeting last night.
He wasn't.
so,
Bummer.
really, I mean, you know, if someone at the sheriff's department could arrange someone to come out and just to talk to them and say, hey, you know, you're kind of upsetting your neighbors, see what you can do. From a pure legal standpoint, there's absolutely nothing to be done about that. I mean, shooting firearms on their own property, I mean, they're not breaking any laws. I mean, now, if it was going off the property, if it was going onto the road, if it was, you know, something like that, but, I mean, there's no state law being broken, and townships are not allowed to regulate firearms. I mean, cities are a whole different set of laws. I mean, what goes on in the city of Perry is the city of Perry, but townships are set by state law, and townships are not allowed to regulate firearms. We have
AK-47s and all, huh?
AK-47s and all, doesn't matter.
So
Any
what
sort
about
of legal-
noise ordinance?
Well, we don't have a noise ordinance,
Maybe we need one.
well,
We don't do our own zoning.
we don't, we
Back to
have no way to,
Back to that.
one of the,
to enforce it.
yeah, you have to have somebody to enforce a noise ordinance. And
That's another reason to get control of your zoning. isn't it?
Different person.
let me finish,
No.
please.
Sorry.
We dealt with this issue very similar to this probably 15 years ago in the northern part of the township. And one of the problems is though, noise ordinances can't regulate firearms. So,
Even if we had one.
even if you had a noise ordinance, you can't regulate firearm sounds with it. Because firearms are, it becomes a Second Amendment issue is what it does. There was actually a US Supreme Court case, I think just 2 years ago, in a township over in Oakland County. So it was a Michigan-based case that, and it involved a commercial shooting range where, you know, if they had to get permits and everything else and they were trying to regulate hours and something more, and the Supreme Court said you can't do that. You know, and on your property,
Do whatever.
you know, it becomes a Second Amendment issue. And so, even if you had a noise ordinance, which we don't, and we don't have any way to enforce a noise ordinance, which is why we don't, you can't regulate firearms with it. I mean, that's what,
So you can't-
and I had reached out to the Township Association again today just to make sure there wasn't any change, because like I said, we dealt with this identical situation like 15 years ago. Now,
So you
I think
can't
the best-
regulate decibels of noise either?
Not if it's fire.
not if it's a firearm related, that's the trick.
Yes, but if this is not a firearm, it's a bomb that they hit with
Yes.
a, yes, it is not the
Well,
firearm.
you're
I'm,
kind of splitting hairs there
well,
with that.
we
but-
weren't living there listening to this that Sunday afternoon.
Sure.
My other comment is, isn't there something can be done to inspect their range? Is their range safe?
No,
They are
unless this is a commercial
Commercial.
shooting range, like they would have to get a special use permit or something for. But if this is somebody shooting in their backyard, absolutely not.
So basically, you have no protection, your government has no interest in protecting you at all. You're just subject to, so you best arm yourself.
And when I'm shooting at varmints, I am so careful about what I'm aiming at.
Sure.
And what's behind, and what's around. And these people sounded like, yahoo! Is what it all
Now,
sounded like.
again, if you can get a hold of the sheriff and maybe arrange for when this is going on, then to send the guy out and just say, act as, just basically say, hey, can you tone this down a little bit?
Well, we all.
I mean, that's the.
We all tried that. Why didn't we?
I realize you did that, and because and the reason they didn't respond is because there's not really law being broken. I mean, that's why they wouldn't, or they would have sent a car. I mean, that's how that works. And again, I know the comparison was made to the city of Perry. Cities and villages are allowed by state law to regulate firearms. Townships are not. That's not a decision we get to make. That's a state law. And
I spoke with an officer, Warren, over there in Corona, and he said that's all they could do is come out and talk to them, maybe.
correct. That's really all they can do
When
is
these
come.
people called, why didn't, I mean, I realize you can't answer this question. We need to be able to ask them these questions.
I mean, that's a question for the sheriff. I mean,
Right.
he runs the sheriff's department, and
I mean,
that's why I was going to suggest that Mark reach out directly to the sheriff about the situation, and because, I mean, I'll be honest, how we resolved this in the northern part of the township was that exact thing. A deputy stopped out and said, hey, what you're doing right here, but if all of a sudden you miss by a little bit and get off your property, now you've committed felonies, right? How about we tone this down a little bit? And that's what resolved the problem, and that's what I would suggest doing here.
More than one of us called 911, and nobody went out there, nobody checked, nobody gave a rusty. Who knows what they were shooting at? I mean, honestly, this just struck all of us as a really unsafe, obnoxious situation. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that this is a problem, or or don't want to live next to it. I'm just telling you what in reality can be done. I mean,
Can I ask a question? Beth used to sell guns at the business, okay, when I first met her, and that she had all kinds of collections and everything, and what does it sound like to you in your mind? Do you think that they just want to have fun? I mean,
Yeah.
they're just trying to have some fun.
I mean, you'll go, yeah, sure.
I'm just
Go out in the
asking.
country and.
People
you know,
buy
you have
guns for
friends,
various
you
reasons, and
get
usually it's to
together,
have
you drink a
fun,
few
right?
beers and you shoot some guns.
now,
But Troy's right about the law. The only other thing I would suggest, and I don't know if it'd be successful, you get a hold of your state representative, your state senator, and you start complaining, so this
That's
thing
what
gets
I was
to be a
just
public issue. When you get to the newspapers,
Good
the
idea.
TV stations, then it's a public issue. But you might try talking to the guy first. Give him a chance to do the right thing.
Officer Warren said specifically not to confront them.
No, not to
I
confront.
wouldn't go over there.
I wouldn't go when they're shooting,
But
That's when we weren't going.
but go at dinner time, knock on the door.
have a little
You
visit
know.
with them, yes.
I'll
Take Rich with me.
but when all else fails and your government can't help you directly,
Right.
go to a higher government.
We don't want a confrontation.
No, of course not. Nobody does.
but I mean, I'm just clarifying, by state law, we can do nothing about firearms. I mean, state law does not allow townships to regulate them. That is crystal clear. And so, yes, I mean, the county sheriff's department can do some, the state can pass laws.
Right.
But I mean,
And change the
we cannot pass an ordinance saying you can't do that. We can't. That would be unlawful. It would be immediately tossed out.
So how long has Tyler been? About a year and a half, roughly?
He's been building that house, it's probably been 2 years.
2 years, and finally got
Yeah,
in.
the property records say 2022.
My suggestion, Mark, is
Do you have his phone number?
I do not,
Okay, I'm just asking out loud. Maybe you got it. Okay.
no, I don't. I mean, my relationship is not that close. they were building the home, they've just finished it in the past 6 months,
Yeah.
moved in with their kids, I mean, so it's,
How many
it's
kids
just
roughly?
involving, there's two, they've got a small
Two.
boy and a small
Oh,
girl.
okay, okay.
Yeah, like I say,
Okay.
good people, I don't think his intentions are bad, it's just the fact that, you know, when you've got Rayland Hills,
Sure.
you know,
Something-
Clifford Fields and, you know, everybody, Forest Green, all there, it's just kind of a developed area, residential
It's a
area.
poor choice they're making.
Yes.
It's a poor choice
The
to
neighbors are
do
too
something
close.
that's going to just endlessly irritate your neighbors.
Here's what I'm gonna
Because that never results in good
All right,
things.
Brian. I'm gonna call Brian McGold, he used to be the sheriff. Brian, I have his phone number, I'll call Brian, he's our state rep now. And he has a good relationship with, the sheriff more than I do, okay? And Brian and I will talk like I talk to you guys, okay? And I will get with Brian and try to get, him to get, I'll try to get this phone number for this fella and try to have Brian have the sheriff call him, okay?
I mean, I can't speak for these folks, I have no objections to them being out there target practicing.
Sure,
For an hour or so.
Sure.
But on a Sunday afternoon for 4 or 5 hours, it just really got obnoxious for all of us.
And I
And
understand.
if you
I
observe
understand.
like dozens of cars going there, like this is becoming a commercial shooting range,
That's very.
that's a different situation, right? Because that, you know, that becomes a zoning issue. But
Permit.
if it's a few buddies coming over to shoot, you know, that's not. And of course,
I'd be a whole lot more concerned about mixing alcohol with high-powered military
Well,
weapons
Sure, absolutely, Wayne.
than whether or not
Memorial
it's a
Day, what do
public.
you think?
Yeah.
absolutely, no,
And
it's a poor choice. But,
Yeah. And I also want to comment that Rose Lake, where they have a lovely gun range, does not allow any kind of semi-automatic or automatic weapons or explosives. They could not have done that at a very nice acceptable gun range.
well, Rose Lake's run by the state, so, I
Yes,
mean,
but
they
what I'm
can.
saying is,
Yeah, so
They
the state
don't
doesn't
allow
allow
that.
it on their gun range, but they do allow it in our backyard.
You got it.
That bothers me a little.
Ah, talk
that
to your
bothers
rep.
me a
So,
lot.
so board, is that acceptable to you, what I do?
Brian Beagle,
Bagel.
if you may.
That's fine.
Say rep.
I mean, we're not, I'm really not trying to suggest that we're punting it, there's just not much we can do.
Well, all
I mean,
do
we
is get the
have
sheriff
been
involved.
through, we had this identical situation a few years ago, and it was finally, it was a law enforcement officer just kind of working with the person to say, hey, quit doing this, you're irritating your neighbors, and then the problem solved itself.
We could only hope.
Right.
I mean, I can also just throw out a suggestion, if for some reason on a Sunday you feel it's getting out of control and central dispatch won't do anything, you could just try calling the state police
State police.
as well.
Yeah.
The state
I've
police
had
director.
real good luck with them too.
Also,
I mean, those are the two options, right? I mean, you know, and I'll be honest, on weekends, the patrols are thin
very
in the
thin
rural.
around
I mean,
here. They are.
if there's a priority call, it's, oh, yeah, there's, I mean, there's 1 to 2, sure, there's 2 cruisers on
We had
it.
a break-in here at the Township Hall. It was a weekend, Friday, or whatever it was, and it
A
took
couple
like
years ago. It was,
2 days for Troy to get somebody.
well, it was an hour before they even got
They
there.
came from,
Bridgeport.
yeah, Bridgeport,
Wow.
north of Flint. They come from that's where the guy came. Yes. Okay, we got one last, any more?
I'm good.
Are we
You
good?
guys
Are you
good?
good?
Yeah,
You okay? Okay.
As good as we
Wayne?
can be.
Sir, are you okay? Okay. All right. Apex upgrade, assessor.
Okay, Apex is the software the assessor uses for doing the sketches of the buildings and everything. And we have an Apex subscription, but she would like to upgrade it so she can use the tablet in the field for doing
Oh,
the
sure,
sketches.
sure.
And then it updates back then, which would be a $1,000 upgrade. So I will make a motion that we approve upgrading the Apex for the mobile version.
Butch seconds. Butch seconds it. Roll call vote for that last item. Veronica?
Troy Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffith? Veronica Howard, yes.
Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
And what time is it?
Well done.
Danny,
8:02.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Troy?
Second.
Mark? Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Or bye. Thank you, guys.